The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard is a sequel to a film that I've actually really liked. Here, they decided to do the sequel to it a couple of years later, and of which I am now only watching it for the very first time, and yeah. Let's talk about it. So, as you can tell, I don't have a lot of enthusiasm for this movie because not only is it again the sequel to a film that I very much really like and thought was funnier than most comedies are, and underrated as well, but I also do think this is where I come to an agreement with a lot of people in that this movie was disappointing. What the original movie excelled on so well, this movie tries too hard to do it in tenfold. And the original is an action comedy, and it does really well with the action and really well with the comedy. Here, I feel both of those things were not as well done. While there are moments, and I say moments specifically as the word to use, of times where both of those things felt like the original, I think they went too hard into it this time around. And it also lacks what made the original so fun. The idea of a buddy cop style format between Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, two of the funniest actors on the planet, is not shown as much here in this one this time around. That's what the first one was so good with. Here, it's mainly Salma Hayek and Ryan Reynolds teamed up together, hence the name of the movie, and Samuel is more in the background. And to be clear, this is not a dig on Selma. She is good. She's funny, but I think I just never thought of her character as being this big piece in the entire story of both Reynolds and Jackson's characters' journey together. All the actors here are great. That's one of the film's positives, but I think this story could have been tweaked a lot more to have a more promising and interesting story. Something along the lines of continuing to make Sam and Ryan the main characters and go on a journey of different proportions with Selma tagging along with them. Those two are good in the first one and bounce off one another like how they were supposed to. It's also shot decently and directed decently as well. That's another positive I'll give this movie. But man, is the story one of the most generic stories ever, with one of the most generic evil villain plot lines of all time. Antonio Banderas plays the main villain, and again, great actor, but oh my god, is he not just so generic and cartoony at times. And speaking of villains, his main right-hand man, played by a guy that I've seen before in other things, but I'm not too familiar with his name, is also not really that good. I just have to brutally be honest here. I thought a lot of his delivery was very one note. Not saying he's a bad actor or anything, but I just felt it could have been delivered a little better. Someone who I do think was actually decent and one of the better gags in the movie was Morgan Freeman. He actually has a bunch of funny lines here, and how his character is brought in was hilarious. I'm telling you, that is one of the funniest parts of the movie. But even as I talk about all of that, I now have to go back to another flaw in that this film has too many subplots. Too many for me to even care about or think should be in the movie in the first place. Again, first movie excelled on having the main story with Ryan and Sam, the main villain in Gary Oldman, and then Selma Hayek was really the only side plot to it. And it worked. Here, it just feels like you have too much going on, and I think it just creates for a mess of a story. Regarding the action, there are some good scenes that hark back to the original, but I just don't think there's enough here, and some of the effects are a bit wonky this time around, but admittedly, most of it was also well choreographed like the first one, so I'll give it a pass on that. But again, overall, I feel this movie could have benefited more from so much more, better story, and more time to take to just get it right. If they were ever to make a third one, I think they should just take up on what the first one did, take on my advice, and just create a well-crafted story around the characters that Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds play. Those two are so good in the first, and if you make the story around them, it's going to excel just by so much. Trust me when I say that. But again, that's neither here nor there because they didn't do that for the second movie. And overall, again, I just felt it was disappointing. I feel that this movie is also just very forgettable as well. Like, I really can't remember what the main plot line of the movie is that they're trying to do because in the end, it's nowhere near even close to what the first movie's plot was because it basically makes the two characters that you're following seem really better than they should be, but at the same time, it's just like, that's not how the first one even really introduced them. So I don't know why, I just feel like this movie also goes against so much of what made the characters who they are in the first movie. So yeah, those are really overall my thoughts, and that's really going to do it for this review. Again, I was disappointed personally in the film, but most importantly, I want to know how you guys all feel about it. Do you think it was better than the first or not? And if they should make a third to close out a trilogy of films, let me know what you think they should do. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. Hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all in the next review.